Welcome to episode 9 of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Last week, Sidney returned from Antigua, bringing with him Georgiana's Aunt Sadie, who's now living at the Parkers' house as their nursery maid. Georgiana received a letter from Otis, begging her to forget about him, but it only caused her to think about him more. She decided to put the majority of her inheritance in care for the sons of Africa for use in helping freed slaves. Alison Hayward squared a debt that Mr. Stringer did not want her to pay, but she hopes it may smooth over their differences. Everyone in Sanditon is making ready for the Prince Regent's picnic, even though it's by private invitation only. The town is full of visitors hoping to brush with royalty and to partake of all the amusements planned around the Prince Regent's name day. On the day prior to the picnic, Tom is in the library, showing his children the model of Sanditon Town.
And this, children, is the crescent. When the crescent is built, I will consider my work in Sanditon done.
When will that be, Papa?
A few years yet, my dear. First, the terrace. When that is fully occupied, we will start building the crescent. Oh, Charlotte, there you are. Have you heard from Lady Susan when the Prince Regent will arrive?
No, I confess I'm a little worried. I sent her several messages while in London, but she went to Brighton shortly after our visit.
Oh, I'm sure it will all turn out. We will hear from her today, depend upon it. The picnic must go on. It must. It will.
Oh, Tom, I hope so.
Morgan brings in letters on a tray. Tom looks through them, finds one addressed to Charlotte from Lady Worcester, and hands it to her. She reads it silently.
You see, my dear, all is well. Sidney, good morning. It is a glorious week for Sanditon, is it not?
It does look promising.
Did you manage to persuade Crow and Tracy to come down for the festivities?
I invited them. Crow may come for the ball, but I could not pin Tracy down. He was always out when I called her.
Mr. Tracy? The same Mr. Tracy that was in Antigua?
Yes, he lives in London now. What is it, Miss Hayward?
They're not coming.
Who is not coming?
Here.
Since I have received no communication from you regarding arrangements, I will assume that it proved too much for Sanditon at this juncture. Perhaps another year we may enjoy our gypsy party at your burgeoning resort. They're going to Bexhill? How could this happen? What does she mean, too much for Sanditon? We are ready. We have the donkeys, we have the buns, and the rest of the food. We have the loveliest view of the sea. How could she do this to us?
I wrote to her that you and Diana were arranging it. Perhaps she did not receive it before she went to Brighton.
Was that around the time that Georgiana was abducted?
Yes. I was waiting for her reply, but when we found out that Georgiana was missing, it slipped my mind for a few days.
I thought you were writing to her on all the particulars of our discussion.
No, I did not realize you expected me to transcribe every discussion. But truthfully, my mind was mostly occupied with finding Georgiana.
This is an abominably stupid blunder. I cannot believe that you did not tell her all we had planned.
Surely, Tom, this is all a misunderstanding. It is not Charlotte's fault.
What are we to do? The fire last year, and now this? It does seem like everything I plan is opposed by some evil nemesis. Oh, these people are here for the Prince Regent's picnic. What will happen when he is not here tomorrow?
Tom, the people that are here now must not have been invited, or they would have gone directly to Bexhill.
They must be here because of all the promotion you've done.
Maybe they are hoping to see the Prince Regent, even if they cannot go to his picnic.
Well, they won't see him now. What will we do with all the food? We have enough for 50 hungry regents.
I'm sorry for my part in this.
And so you should be, Charlotte. This is a most dreadful muddle.
Tom, that is enough.
Jenny looks at her father and Uncle Sidney with frightened eyes, then bursts into tears and hides her face.
Tom, Sydney, can you not behave in a more gentlemanlike manner?
I am sorry, Mary. Ladies.
I am sorry, Jenny. That was not the voice of a gentleman.
Sidney bends down and holds out his hand to Jenny. She clings to her mother, but after a few seconds, she lets him take her hand and press it as an apologetic gesture.
There is no need to become angry about this. We can resolve it in a civilized manner. Can we not? Tom?
Yes, Mary.
Tom, did you take the planning of the picnic into your own hands when Lady Susan preferred to do it herself?
Yes. But why should I not help her? She would have been glad for us to do it if Charlotte had only communicated with her.
Did you ever ask Miss Hayward to do that?
No. Charlotte, forgive me. I am just so dumbfounded. I do not know how to remedy this.
Well, for one thing, we shall have a very well supplied cake stall at the archery tournament on Saturday. Charlotte, Sadie, shall we take some air? Perhaps our Sanditon breezes will waft a fresh idea our way. Come, children.
All right.
Tom sits down at his desk at the far side of the room and takes up his paper, perusing it anxiously. On the way out of the room, Charlotte passes Sidney and pauses to speak to him.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
There is no need.
What? Oh, you're welcome, Charlotte. We'll figure out something. We must.
The next day, the Parkers, along with Charlotte, Georgiana, and her Aunt Sadie, step out of Trafalgar House and head to the beach. They find themselves in a crowd of people on their way to the seaside. The bathing machines advance into the water with lines of hopeful bathers waiting their turn. A sign proclaims, "Amateur Archery Tournament today, open to all." A cake stall selling picnic lunches stands a short distance from a herd of donkeys in a makeshift corral. Already, families with picnic baskets are riding donkeys down to the beach. Georgiana takes her aunt and cousin off towards the water, and Mrs. Griffiths and the Beauforts head to the cake stall.
Look at all the people, Papa.
It is truly magnificent.
And these are the people who did not get the invitation to Bexhill. It looks as if Sanditon can make it without royal endorsement after all.
True, Mary. Very true. Just the idea was enough.
May we ride the donkeys, Papa?
All in good time, Alicia. Let us see who wins today's tournament. Then we will take a ride and have a picnic.
And you will go with us?
Of course I will. There is nothing else I would rather do.
Mary and the children decide to go shell hunting, while Mr. Parker and Charlotte check on the number of archery contestants. They find Allison at a small table signing people in.
Miss Allison, following in the footsteps of your illustrious sister, your idea for a preliminary open round today is just the thing, to draw people to the beach. And then they will take in the gypsy picnic. Come to the tournament tomorrow.
And come to the ball tomorrow night. It is all so very exciting.
Mr. Stringer rides up behind the Parkers and dismounts.
Mr. Stringer!
Miss Hayward, Mr. Parker, how do you do, Miss Allison?
Fine, thank you.
Are you here for the tournament, Mr. Stringer?
Oh, no, miss. Friday's a work day. I was bringing the plans over to Colonel Babington's cottage when I saw all the commotion on the beach. Looks like Sanditon is becoming what you always dreamed of, Mr. Parker.
Yes, yes it is, young Stringer. 'Tis a great day for Sanditon. I flatter myself that today's festivities... Well, it was Miss Allison's idea.
Well, the picnic was Lady Susan's idea.
Well, whoever's idea it was, it's working.
Say, young Stringer, has anyone else commissioned a cottage on the beachfront?
As a matter of fact, Captain Beaufort has just engaged Milsham and Company to design and build. I'll be starting those plans next week.
Capital! Now, young Stringer, have you ever tried your hand at the bow? A stonemason must have a good eye. You might take the prize. You never know.
Oh, I need to get back to work, Mr. Parker. Thank you all the same.
Come now, an architect needs to eat like any other man, does he not? You could eat a sandwich while you wait your turn at the target. It's about to start.
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Parker. I haven't handled a bow since I was a boy, and that one was homemade. I'm sure these handle a lot different.
I think you should try it, Mr. Stringer. And if you want instruction, just ask Alison. She's the best archeress around.
Is she now? Well, let it not be said that James Stringer was averse to trying something new.
There's a good fellow.
While Mr. Stringer ties up his horse, Alison selects a bow for him among the donated equipment. Georgiana tries to teach her aunt how to handle a bow and arrow, but she is not very proficient herself. Sydney strolls up to the practicing group close to the registration table, where Charlotte has taken Alison's place.
Miss Hayward?
Mr. Parker, I hope you don't mind Alison selected one of your bows for Mr. Stringer to use.
No, I don't mind. Anyone may use them today. I do not need them until tomorrow.
Georgiana's Aunt Sadie is not landing any arrows on the target. Georgiana is only slightly better.
I think Georgiana and her aunt might benefit from a little instruction if you have time.
I think you are right. Are you joining the contest?
I will be in the society tournament tomorrow.
Oh, of course. Are you any good?
I'm sufficiently accomplished in the sport.
Would you care to engage in a friendly competition? I'd like to see what I'm up against.
You should be very afraid, Mr. Parker. The Hayward cousins are celebrated archers in Sussex.
Never heard of them. I think I must have some proof.
Oh, you will see what I mean tomorrow.
And why not today?
Because someone has to sit here and register the contestants.
Convenient excuse. I think you are stalling.
All right. You sit here and I will give Georgiana a demonstration and you will see what I mean.
With pleasure.
Sydney and Charlotte observe Lady Denham and Esther approaching. Sydney grimaces.
Behold, the dragon cometh. On second thought, perhaps I would be a better instructor for Georgiana. I am better acquainted with her shortcomings.
Oh, yes, I think you had better, Mr. Parker. You would be intimidated if you saw what you were up against tomorrow.
I doubt it.
We shall see, Mr. Parker.
While Sydney instructs Georgiana and her aunt, Alison is having difficulty explaining to Mr. Stringer the proper way to release an arrow. It is nearly impossible to show him how it is to be done without some physical contact. She finally gets him positioned after becoming very flustered and red in the face. Mr. Stringer is thoroughly enjoying himself. He keeps hoping that she will look at him in the eyes for once, instead of everywhere else.
All right, Mrs. Stringer. This is the correct position. Now train your eye upon the target. Eyes on the target, Mr. Stringer.
Oh, I thought they were. Right then.
Release the arrow.
The arrow hits the outer rim of the target.
Not bad. But I think you did not give your eyes time to focus in on the target. Wait a bit longer until you think you are sure you are ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
Then try again. Mr. Stringer, you are not shooting at me, I hope. Eyes on the target.
I think it might help if I see how you do it, Miss Allison.
Very well.
Alison takes the bow from Mr. Stringer and makes her stance.
So, once I have my arrow positioned, I train my eyes on the target.
Oh, is that what you do?
It is the single most important step of the process.
I thought it was more about how you draw the arrow against the bow. Let me see how you do that.
Mr. Stringer puts his hand on Allison's bow hand and reaches his other arm around her to check the position of the arrow.
Yes. That seems about right.
Mr. Stringer.
What? What are you waiting for? I want to see how it's done.
Allison releases the arrow, and it does not even make it on the board.
Oh, I think your eyes were not on the target, Miss Allison. Better try again.
Once more, Allison takes aim, and once more Mr. Stringer practically encircles her with his arms as he tries to grasp her positioning technique. He checks the tension on the bow and stalls her with an observation.
You know, I've been reading a book that a friend gave me.
You have? What did you read?
Some cupids kill with arrows, and some with traps.
I can see what he means by traps.
Mr. Stringer takes a step back from Allison and drops his arms.
And do you feel trapped, Miss Allison? Because that is not my intent.
No, I guess not.
Very good then. Eyes on the target.
Allison takes aim and hits the bull's eye.
Perfect! But then your arrows always hit their target.
Not always, Mr. Stringer.
You were right on the money the day you stepped out of Healy's shoe shop.
What? Money? I bought you the books.
No, Miss Allison. I'm not speaking of a debt, though I do thank you for those beautiful books. I'm speaking of the arrow you shot, through me, on the day I first met you.
Oh, you were very grave that day. I thought perhaps you were thinking of your father.
That was the first day I did not think about my father.
Well, happy I could be of assistance, Mr. Stringer.
As am I. Though I don't know what you see in me. Perhaps Shakespeare was right. That loving goes by haps.
Some cupids kill with arrows.
And some with traps.
Meanwhile, Mr. Hankins comes to the cake stall to order lunch. Mrs. Griffiths soon follows with the Beaufort girls in tow.
Mrs. Griffiths, delighted to see you again. Are you partaking in the gypsy picnic?
Well, it seems rather uncouth, but it looks as if I'm the only one in that opinion.
I believe the idea for today's activities came from the Prince Regent himself.
Yes, I know, but I generally look to a higher plane for models for my girls.
Ah, I take your point, Mrs. Griffiths. Very wise. But, if I may, shall I suggest a more appropriate example?
Please do.
Adam and Eve ate outdoors, and the feeding of the 5,000 also happened out of doors. I think it's safe to follow our Lord's example.
Well, when you put it like that, I suppose I have no objection.
Oh, Mrs. Griffiths!
You ride the donkeys?
Mrs. Griffiths looks at Reverend Hankins with the question.
I could cite many examples.
No, that is not necessary.
Oh, Mrs. Griffiths, it is so exciting.
Oh, I want the gray one over there.
And sake, they're all gray, Phillida.
There are so many shades of gray. I'd call that one pewter, and that one slate gray. Well, perhaps if you took a little more notice at the differences, Julia, your watercolors might be more intelligible.
Girls, for shame. Quarreling in front of the minister.
Beg pardon, Mrs. Griffiths.
I should say so.
Mr. Hankins motions for Mrs. Griffiths to go ahead of him in the queue, and she steps up to order their lunches. After Georgiana's archery lesson, Sidney walks back towards the town. As he passes Charlotte's table, he hesitates.
How is Mrs. Williams getting along as Mary's new nursery maid?
They're fine, I think. Mary felt the inconvenience of being without her for so long that she's determined to like her.
What I mean is, how do you think Sadie is adapting to life here?
I think she's a bit lost, to tell the truth.
I wondered if that would be the case. When I brought Georgiana here as a girl, I left her in the care of Mrs. Griffiths, and I thought my job was done. I never thought about how hard it would be to come to this country all alone.
At least her aunt is not all alone.
Yes, but I'm not convinced that Georgiana and her aunt have all that much in common. Georgiana has led a different life here. That was her father's whole reason for sending her to school.
But they are family. You know how much that counts.
Yes, I do. Well then, perhaps I will see you at dinner. Mary has invited me.
Was Mrs. Campion coming down for the festivities?
She decided to go to Bexhill today. She'll be here for the ball tomorrow night.
I see. You did not want to join her at Bexhill?
Well, there was hardly time to make arrangements, and besides, I would rather be here.
Back at the tournament grounds, the archers are getting ready in the last few minutes of practice before the tournament starts, but Aunt Sadie puts down her bow.
Is something wrong, Aunt?
No, my love. I just like to sit and watch. I'm not good at hitting that little circle. You go on.
All right.
You're Mr. Sidney. Does he want you for his wife?
What? No.
He's very kind to you.
That is relatively new. Until this year, I could not stand the man.
When he were younger, I also thought he was not a good man. But I changed my mind. He looked for my husband 2 whole days before we got on the boat.
He did? And he did not find him?
Someone say he might have gone over to Jamaica.
Perhaps, when I get to my inheritance, we can look for him there.
Boat trips cost a lot of money, my love.
We won't have to worry about money next year.
You would take us all to Jamaica?
Of course.
Then maybe we can find Alfred.
Perhaps once we find him, we could all come back here and you can live with me.
Maybe. Gianna, I did not do right by Mr. Sidney when you was a little girl.
What do you mean?
Do you remember your father's cook, Isabel?
Yes.
She was always trying to get under my skin and your mother's. That summer before Mr. Parker took you away, I found out that she was with child, and I thought it was Mr. Parker's, but he did not claim it. I did not think him to be a good man. His face was always like a thundercloud. When I found out he was taking you to England, I was not happy. I did not think he would treat you right. And I told you never to trust him.
I do remember that.
But I found out later that Isabel lied. I should have suspected. The child's father was the refinery foreman, not Mr. Parker. And after you'd gone, I found out that Mr. Parker wanted your father to let us go free. When I told you not to trust him all those years ago, it was based on a lie. I think that is why you hate him.
Well, still, he would have nothing to do with me when we got here. He left me alone on this frigid island. He deposited me at Mrs. Griffith's like a parcel package.
Maybe he did not know better. He is not a father.
He said he would take care of me, but I did not see him for 2 whole years.
But that was then, child. Something has happened to that man since then. If he wanted to marry you, he would be a kind husband.
He is going to marry someone else, Auntie, but not who he should.
I tell you one thing, he's worth 20 times that snake, Mr. Tracy.
Mr. Tracy? What makes you say that?
He knows how to skin money off people. He's done it all his life.
It doesn't surprise me. There was always something that set me on edge about him. From the first time he came to the big house with Sydney.
I bet you didn't know Tracy is your cousin.
What?
It was a great secret. Your uncle don't want nobody to know that Tracy is his son by some woman in England when she went to school here. He paid him and the mother of Regular to keep it quiet.
How do you know all this?
Alfred's papa was your uncle's butler. He knew all the goings at the house. Tracy always wanted to get in his daddy's good graces. He might be happy to get hold of his daddy's money, and your daddy's too.
Does Sydney know all this?
I do not know. The only reason to be friends with a snake is if you're worse off with them as enemy. I think probably Mr. Sydney does not know.
To think, Mr. Tracy is my cousin.
As the amateur archery tournament commences, Allison and Lady Denham walk towards a large tent set up for spectators of the tournament. They are followed by Lord and Lady Babington. The townspeople bow to Lady Denham and appear to be more genial than usual towards her. A little peasant girl runs up to them and tugs at Allison's skirt. She hands her a large, perfect shell.
For Lady Denham, she helped my papa get well.
You may give it to her yourself.
The little girl holds out the shell to Lady Denham, who gingerly takes it, unsure what to do with it.
And how did I help your papa to get well?
You sent all the beef broth with Miss Allison.
Well, what's your name, little girl?
Hetty Biddle, ma'am.
The little girl runs back to her brother and sister. Lady Denham's party enters the tent and sits down.
She must be the undergardener's daughter. He was off half the winter with consumption. Miss Allison, is not that young Stringer? I thought he was in London.
He's brought down some drawings for Colonel Babington.
And he decided to take a holiday. What will Mr. Milsham say?
Mr. Parker persuaded him to give an hour to the tournament.
Tom Parker never went that easy on him when he was building my terrace.
I thought you shared ownership with Mr. Parker.
It might as well be mine. He owes me 100 times what the lot is worth.
A little ways away, Mr. Stringer assists his elderly aunt to sit on a boulder to watch the activities. They see Allison in the tent and nod to her and Lady Denham. The older woman calls Mr. Stringer back and tells him something. Mr. Stringer comes over to the tent and stands just to the side to speak to Allison.
My aunt wishes to convey her thanks for all the flowers Lady Denham sent her.
Stringer sees that Lady Denham has heard him and speaks directly to her. The Babingtons look on with interest.
Pardon me, your ladyship. My aunt wishes me to thank you for your kindness to her, for all the flowers. They've cheered her up considerably.
Tell your aunt If she is well enough to take some embroidery work, I have plenty for her. She may speak to my maid.
I'll tell her, ma'am. Thank you.
Stringer bows and turns to go, but Lady Denham keeps talking so that he turns back.
And you may tell your employer, Mr. Milsham, that I am very pleased with his work on the stables.
I shall, ma'am.
It's made my morning constitutionals prodigiously more enjoyable.
I'm glad it pleases you, ma'am. It does catch the eye.
Oh, well, yes, but that is nothing to the improvement of the smell.
The smell, your ladyship?
Why, yes. Whenever I walked by the stables, I could smell the pigs as well as if I were wallowing in the mud with them. But since the new walls were built so thick, I don't smell them at all. I can't tell you how delightful it is to walk to the falls again.
I'm not sure that had anything to do...
I believe it was your idea to make the walls a full 2 feet thick. Was it not, Mr. Stringer?
It was.
You may make an architect after all, young man. The times we are living in.
I think they're waiting for you in the tournament, Mr. Stringer. Good luck.
Mr. Stringer goes back to take his turn in the contest.
I did not know you were so benevolent, Aunt. Shall I expect the bread line at the kitchen door tomorrow?
That is all Miss Allison's doing. I say, it gives me a peculiar feeling of saintliness.
And how do you like it?
Odd. Very odd.
Nearly an hour later, Mr. Stringer is one of 2 left in a tournament. By a narrow margin, he wins and shakes the hands with the other men.
I am pleased to award first prize to James Stringer, which entitles him to participate in the Sanditon Society tournament tomorrow as an honorary member.
The audience applauds as he accepts the ribbon.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. This turned out to be a very good idea.
You are quite the sportsman, young Stringer. You won the regatta and now the amateur archery tournament. What prize will you carry off next?
Time shall tell, Mr. Parker. I have my eye on one.
You will be up against some formidable competition in tomorrow's contest, but then you've surprised us before. Ah, there's Sydney. Enjoy your day, Mr. Stringer.
Are you glad you entered, Mr. Stringer?
Aye, Miss Allison. I thank you for your instruction. It did me a great deal of good. Do you have any secret strategies for tomorrow?
Tomorrow you'll be on your own.
You'll put me in my place, no doubt.
We shall see, Mr. Stringer. We shall see.
The next day at the river, where the regatta was held the previous summer, groups of ladies in wildly colored archery uniforms, as well as gentlemen in archery attire, are beginning to disperse, following the society archery tournament. Lady Denham inspects Allison's second-place ribbon among the group of Sanditon ladies, including Charlotte and Lady Babington.
Well done, Miss Allison. Second place is nothing to sneeze at, and I'll wager you've won first place in the heart of one or another of the gentlemen here. This exercise does more to show a pretty profile than any other.
I did see some admiring glances coming your way, including Lord Althorp's brother, among others.
Charlotte tilts her head towards Mr. Stringer, who is conversing with Mr. Hankins at a short distance from them.
I am a bit curious. Why did you let Lord Althorp win?
Let him? He is a very skilled archer.
Yes, and his brother is very handsome. I think that may have had more to do with it.
No, indeed.
Lady Denham, may I steal my sister to take a turn beside the river? I've hardly seen her this past week.
I can see you have secrets to discuss. Run along. Esther is with me for the moment, but don't be long. We must get ready for the ball.
Charlotte takes Allison's arm and they walk along the river.
You look very pretty today.
Considering this uniform, I'll take that as a high compliment.
It's true. Even in olive green and mustard yellow. I've not seen you look this well since...
Since before Charles died.
Yes.
It's all right, Charlotte. I can speak of it. It is getting easier.
I'm glad. I think it has helped you to come to Sanditon. But I am ready to go home now. What have you decided?
I miss Mama and Papa, but I confess I would like to stay a little longer.
Does a certain young architect have anything to do with this?
Perhaps. Yes, he does. You are right, Charlotte. He is very agreeable.
And what did he say when you gave him the money for the boots?
I decided to pay him back with books instead.
Well played. Did he like them?
Yes, he did. I think he loves me, Charlotte.
And do you return it?
Perhaps. It's a very new sensation. He's so different from Charles, and I always thought I could never love anyone but Charles. I do like him. I confess I like him very much.
I like him very much as well. And as soon as you tell me he is to be my brother, I will profess my love most profusely. I have always thought very highly of him.
More highly than a certain Parker brother?
And there was a time when I thought he was worth 10 times Sidney Parker. So I have made some incorrect assumptions. At the end of last summer, I told Mr. Parker he was much improved. But after watching him these past few months, I begin to think I never knew him at all. He's not the same man.
He is better than what you thought.
Infinitely better. Which makes it all the harder to stand by and watch him pledge himself to a woman he does not love. If I am miserable, surely he is more so. But somehow he seems to have resigned himself to his fate. Which I suppose is all he can do.
Poor soul. And poor Charlotte.
How is it that men can dispose of their emotions whenever it is convenient? He says he wants to be my friend, but that is too difficult for me. With every conversation, I'm filled with regret that it can only be friendship and nothing more. I would rather be alone than continue here and be only his friend.
2 days more and you'll be on your way home, Charlotte.
Thank goodness. I can only get through this ball.
I've never heard you complain about a ball before. Mr. Stringer will surely ask you to dance, and Arthur, and maybe even Lord Althorp and his brother. Sidney Parker is not the only man in England.
Is he not? You're right, Alison. This ball could be very diverting.
And many more choices of dancing partners than we get in Willingdon.
You're right, Alison. I think I would enjoy dancing with Arthur Parker much more than Anthony Fraser. I will enjoy myself tonight. Why should I not?
Back at the refreshment tent, Tom Parker approaches Mr. Stringer and Mr. Hankins.
A very good show today, young Stringer.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I did better than I thought. Miss Allison should have won the prize.
To be sure, she should have. I think she missed the last one on purpose. But her sacrifice put Lord Althorp in such good spirits that he has leased the last large apartment in Prospect House for the summer.
That's wonderful.
I tell you, Vicar, the events of today exalt me to the utmost pinnacle of human felicity and make me bask in the sunshine of prosperity.
I can well believe it.
Hankins looks in the direction of Mrs. Griffiths, surrounded by the Beaufort girls and Georgiana in their hideous green and yellow Sanditon archery uniforms.
Did you ever see such a rainbow of blossoms in one place?
I can't say that I have.
Glad the men's uniforms were not left up to Lady Denham.
As am I, young Stringer. She was keen as mustard to have the ladies' uniforms in yellow and green, but I must say I don't care a fig for them.
Even King Solomon, in all his splendor, was never dressed like one of these.
Well, he's not called the wisest man in the world for nothing.
At Trafalgar House, the Parkers, Charlotte and Georgiana, dress for the spring ball. Sims puts the finishing touch on Mary's hair and then leaves. Tom and Mary discuss the events of the day.
I say, Mary, yesterday and today have gone much better than I thought they would.
I was surprised Alison did not win their society tournament.
I suspect that she allowed the Viscount win, which was very charitable. It put him into such good humor that he signed a lease in Prospect Place, which means, Mary, it will turn a profit this year. Surely that will appease Lady Denham.
I am pleased, Tom. Your hard work is paying off.
And you have borne with me, as no other woman in England could.
Tom kisses his wife, and they depart for the ball. Meanwhile, Georgiana, looking spent from the day and still wearing her Sanditon archery uniform, sits quietly while Crockett, her maid, puts her hair into a turban. Charlotte enters dressed in a ball gown.
Thank you, Crockett. That will be all.
Aren't you going to the ball?
I have no inclination for dancing tonight.
Wait until you get there. You may feel differently.
I do not think it's worthwhile to wait for enjoyment until there's real opportunity for it.
But you always enjoy dancing with Arthur. Shall I help you with your hair?
My hair is tidy, which is all my ambition.
Child, why are you not dressed? You're not going to the ball like that, Missy.
I don't know what the point is, unless it is to be paraded once more around the ring as the champion heifer to be bid on by the highest title.
You can't tell me there ain't one good man on an island as big as this. Who was that black man in a fine coat I saw earlier?
It wouldn't be Mr. Thomas, would it?
I thought he left just after our meeting. I wonder if... Auntie, could you do up my hair like you did last week?
Of course, child.
Charlotte looks through Georgiana's gowns.
Where is the one with the ribbon work? That is your prettiest gown.
Crockett took it down to press with the clothes iron. Maybe I can find a matching ribbon that says first prize for my headdress.
Georgiana.
Charlotte picks up Georgiana's brooch from the dressing table and holds it up to her.
Your cameo would look very pretty tonight, don't you think?
Yes, and you should wear my pearls.
Are you sure?
Yes, they will look very pretty about your neck.
While the girls are dressing, a dapper Arthur Parker shows up at the Trafalgar House with Dr. Benjamin Jonas.
Tom, look who I found at the hotel.
Dr. Jonas, this is a pleasure. Come to see Sanditon for yourself, have you?
Yes, indeed.
There was no room for him in the inn. I thought you might have room here.
Yes, we have one left.
I thought you said this was not a popular place.
Ah, well, you have happened upon us during a most exhilarating week. Today there was a gypsy picnic, an archery tournament, and tonight our annual spring ball. You must stay, of course, and stay with us.
Are you fond of dancing?
I like nothing better.
Then it's settled. Oh, Diana, I did not know you were here. You remember the good Dr. Jonas?
Of course.
He's come to experience our sea breezes.
We certainly have a few to spare.
I take it they're not too strong for you in the spring, Miss Diana?
Oh, no. They do me much good in the spring.
Tom, do you know who else I saw going into Prospect Place?
Who?
Lord Grasmere. He said that his feet were so much better after taking Diana's medicine that he has decided he no longer needs to go to Bath.
Capital, capital. Well done, Diana.
I think he is hoping to see more of you, sister. I declare, I believe the days of Lady Denham being the only lady in Sanditon are numbered. How I will laugh if the time comes when she must address Tom Parker's sister as Lady Grasmere. I am not sure she would want to share her throne with you, Diana.
Oh, Arthur, what nonsense you talk. Lord Grasmere is a mere acquaintance.
One you would do well to encourage, Diana. He has the finest collection of French wine in all of London. I would not mind calling him brother.
Arthur, what say we allow the good doctor to get settled in?
All right, Tom, but I was hoping to ask him about my appetite.
Oh, come, Arthur, there is nothing wrong with your appetite.
But I am not as hungry as I used to be. Something must be wrong.
I think you are worrying too much, Arthur.
How can one worry too much?
I am quite sure it is not so serious that Dr. Jonas must address it this minute.
I will be happy to make an appointment with you on Monday, Mr. Arthur.
If you think it's safe to wait, Doctor.
Come, Arthur, he must get ready for the dance.
All right, but I am already dressed. I thought I might wait here in your drawing room a while. It is far more comfortable than the hotel.
Shall we see if Mrs. Hillier has any cocoa?
It's rather warm for cocoa, Tom.
At any rate, let's see if she has some.
Tom hurriedly pulls Arthur towards the kitchen.
I never knew you liked cocoa, Tom.
I don't. Can you not see that Diana might want to talk to Dr. Jonas alone?
About what? She hasn't complained of feeling ill in weeks.
Exactly.
So why? Oh.
I think Dr. Jonas is the cure for Diana's ills.
Oh, I hope he did not pay any mind to what I said about Lord Grasmere. Although, he would make an excellent match for Diana, and I would like to see his wine cellar.
I admit I wouldn't mind having a lord in the family, but I don't think Diana cares a whit for him. Best let Jonas have his chance. He will meet with success, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm glad to hear you've been well. What have you been taking?
Why, nothing. But for some medicinal chocolate.
And how is your supply?
It is almost gone.
Tut, tut, Miss Diana. You did not follow the instructions. It should have run out long ago. Next time I buy you candy, I expect you to be a more compliant patient. But perhaps, once you are Lady Grasmere, you will have no need for anything I might give you.
It is a rather flattering prospect. I had never thought to marry a lord. Viscount, perhaps.
I suppose I had better dress for the dance.
Dr. Jonas, there is plenty of time. I wanted to tell you how much better I have felt these past few weeks.
Indeed. And what do you think has been the remedy?
I have been taking your advice on fresh air and sea bathing.
Very good, Miss Diana. My father said he has not seen you for some weeks. He rather misses you.
Oh, does he? Then I will make him a visit when I get back to London. I do need some lavender water.
I hope you like D.R. Harris's.
I do not quibble about a name as much as some people do.
Yes, I am glad of it. You are less and less fastidious about certain things than when I first knew you. And I hope your new tolerance extends to the company you keep. I suppose Lord Grasmere has already asked for your first dance tonight.
No.
Well then, might I beg for that honour?
There is no need to beg, Dr. Jonas. I am happy to dance with you as much as you please.
As much as I please. Even when you are surrounded by lords and viscounts, and I am only an apothecary.
Dr. Jonas, I will thank you not to repeat what I said when I first knew you. I have long thought of you as much more than an apothecary.
Oh? Have I long been in your thoughts? If not as an apothecary, then in what capacity do I figure in Miss Diana's contemplations?
Well, as my Dr. Jonas.
Your Dr. Jonas? That seems rather Possessive?
I suppose.
Perhaps you might permit me to call you my Miss Diana.
You may.
And would you miss the miss if I shortened it to my Diana?
I would not miss it.
Splendid. One more improvement, and I promise I will have done. Would you take it amiss if I were to ask you to be called by Mrs. Jonas? Would a doctor do as well as a lord?
I would not take it amiss. In truth, it would make me happier than anything else.
Then, my dear, we should not delay, for I find my well-being depends largely upon the happiness of my Diana.
That night at the ball, the orchestra is tuning up as Georgiana enters the Sanditon assembly rooms. She searches over the crowd looking for a familiar face. Charlotte trails behind her, pausing to speak to Alison and Lady Denham. Sydney Parker and Eliza Campion stand across the room looking bored. Seeing Georgiana, Sydney excuses himself to come to speak to her.
You are looking very pretty tonight, Georgiana.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
And where is Arthur tonight? Does he not always take your first dance?
Georgiana nods in the direction of Arthur, talking with the Miss Beauforts.
It appears I've been supplanted. Will Mrs. Campion allow you off-tether to dance with anyone else tonight?
Well, of course.
Georgiana gives the room another once-over. She sees Viscount Althorpe and a companion in a naval uniform looking over at her, and she sighs.
I'd rather not dance tonight.
Come, Georgiana. I will if you will.
All right.
Tom Parker is talking with Lord Althorpe, the Navy officer, and Mr. Hankins only a few feet away. He beckons to Sydney.
Sydney! Sydney!
Sydney starts to walk towards him, but Georgiana catches his arm with her fan.
Not forget the first dance, if you please.
I'll be back.
Ah, Sydney. This is the Viscount's brother, Sir Robert. He was asking about your young ward.
I hear she is to inherit a considerable sum.
Yes, she is. Though it will be another year yet.
And who, may I ask, is the young lady standing behind her? The one by the dowager?
That is Miss Alison Hayward.
She is her goddaughter, is she not?
No, she has only lately met her.
But she is her closest companion. Lady Denham has no children.
Perhaps I might be introduced to the young ladies.
Certainly.
Sydney brings Sir Robert over to Georgiana and Alison, who've heard the entire conversation.
Sir Robert, may I present Miss Georgiana Lamb of Antigua and Miss Alison Hayward of Willingdon.
Charmed. Might I ask for the first dance, Miss Lamb? And perhaps Miss Hayward would reserve the next.
I am sorry, but it's already been taken, I'm afraid.
Ah. And how about you, Miss Hayward? Is your card already full?
Not completely, but my first dance is also promised.
Well, I shall try my luck later on. Ladies.
He is rather handsome in his uniform.
Not handsome enough to tempt me.
Who is handsome enough to tempt the grand champion of Sanditon?
No one here, I assure you. You are welcome to him.
As the reserve champion, I will stand in for you once, but that is all, and not until I give my promise dance to Mr. Stringer.
Mr. Stringer, the stonemason. You gave up a dance with Sir Robert for him.
And who did you give up the dance for?
I am not looking for a rich husband.
And do you think I am?
Here comes your stonemason.
Good evening, Miss Lamb, Miss Alison.
Good evening.
I apologize for my tardiness, Miss Allison. I just bought a new cravat. Not used to the new way of tying it.
It looks very becoming.
As do you, Miss Allison. Shall we join the set?
Oh, yes. Do you enjoy dancing, Mr. Stringer?
Oh, yes, miss. But never with as much pleasure as tonight.
As the dance progresses, Otis Molyneux comes in quietly, taking his place behind some townspeople and surveying the scene. He overhears them speaking of Georgiana.
Who is the dark beauty?
That is the heiress I told you about, from the West Indies. They say she has 100,000.
100,000?
Yes, and that is her guardian, Sidney Parker, dancing with her. Rumor has it, they fought like cats and dogs until this year.
If she comes into her majority soon, that would be reason enough to make up. They look rather pleased with each other.
Sidney and Georgiana are enjoying the dance, and the sensation of not being bitter enemies for the first time in their lives.
How is it that you've never asked me to dance before?
I do not recall that I did this time.
I never wanted to dance with you before, but you are not a bad dancer. If you would ask in future, I may say yes.
Careful now, Georgiana. Do not tip your hand too much.
I think I've been wrong about you.
Wrong about what exactly?
I've been under some incorrect impressions since I came from Antigua.
I probably gave a bad impression. I was not interested in anyone's opinion at that time. I probably gave off many wrong impressions. I freely admit that I knew nothing about the proper care of a 12-year-old girl. I'm sorry I left you so alone. Do you suppose I could rewrite that history?
Rewrite it. History cannot be rewritten. Change occurs only in the present.
And how am I doing at present?
Of late, much improved.
Otis sees how happy Georgiana is, dancing with Sidney, and by the end of the dance he decides to leave. Georgiana sees Otis just as he turns to go. As everyone starts to applaud the musicians, she suddenly drops Sidney's hand and runs after him, calling his name.
Otis!
Everyone stares. Georgiana makes her way through the crowd and rushes out the door, but finds the street empty. She starts through the darkening town to look for him. Back inside, Charlotte comes to Sidney's side as they follow Georgiana's path to the door. They consider each other with equally questioning looks.
Perhaps we should help her find him?
I'll go.
Sidney, what about my dance?
It will have to wait.
Charlotte follows Sidney into the street and sees Georgiana hurriedly walking towards Trafalgar House.
You go with Georgiana. I'll check the side street.
As soon as Sidney turns the corner, he sees Otis. Otis stops and turns around at Sidney's greeting.
Mr. Molyneux, you've come for the dance?
No, I came to see Georgiana. From her letter, I thought she wanted to see me. I believe I'm mistaken.
Judging from her reaction just now, I think she very much wants to see you.
I thought maybe you and she were...
What?
It looked as if you very much enjoyed dancing together.
Oh, we are certainly on friendlier terms than we have been in the past. You will recall how much she hated me before.
Yes.
Did Mr. Thomas tell you about our meeting?
He did. Georgiana wrote that you would understand if I came to see her.
I may reconsider allowing you to see her. There are several who speak well of you. Your business partner, for one. Mr. Hankins, for another. And Miss Haywood.
You must believe me when I tell you I will not misuse her inheritance, regardless of how large or small, on the gaming tables or otherwise.
There's a long pause. Then Sidney extends his hand. Otis hesitantly takes it. They shake firmly, and Sidney puts his hand on Otis's shoulder.
We should find her before she thinks you've disappeared. I never know what she will do. She can be rather volatile in her distress.
You know her well.
Otis and Sidney retrace their steps back to the assembly room's portico, where they see Georgiana and Charlotte coming back from the opposite direction. When Georgiana sees Otis, she flies to his embrace. Sidney and Charlotte leave them to reconcile on the portico.
I got your letter.
I was hoping you would come.
Is it true? Are you giving up your inheritance to the sons of Africa?
Most of it. We will still have enough to live on from what my father brought with him to Antigua.
We?
I hope your offer from last summer still stands, despite what you said in your last letter.
Georgiana, it will not be the same life you're used to. I travel frequently. It will be not as comfortable as your life is now.
You are my comfort, Otis. If I can be where you are, I will be happy.
Truly? Oh, Georgiana, will you marry me the day you become 21?
I will not wait one day later.
Back in the assembly rooms, Mrs. Campion interrogates Sidney.
What was that all about?
Oh, Mr. Molyneux has reappeared.
And did you send him packing again?
Not this time. I think he may be here to stay.
She could do so much better.
I'm not convinced of that.
Were you planning to dance with me tonight?
Shall we wait until the next one begins?
I suppose. I would not mind some punch if you would be so good.
Very well.
Sidney goes to fulfill Mrs. Campion's request and meets Babington at the punch bowl.
Where's Tracy tonight? I thought he was one of your brother's newest conquests for Sanditon.
I don't know. He's never at home when I call anymore. I wonder what he's about.
He's been about Mrs. Campion for quite a bit this spring. If I were you, I'd be worried.
Indeed.
Did you not know it?
I haven't seen her much since I returned. I'm rather surprised she wanted to come to this ball.
Oh? Is there still going to be a wedding?
She has a date in mind.
Am I invited?
If you like. St. George's, 2 weeks from today.
You look less than enthusiastic, my friend.
Whatever gave you that idea?
Seated along the edge of the hall, Lady Denham and Esther Babington watch Tom and Arthur Parker dancing exuberantly. Unseen, Mrs. Campion walks up behind the ladies and gives the Parker brothers a thinly disguised look of disgust.
Tom Parker is certainly enjoying himself tonight.
He must be ecstatic, considering all the people that came to Sanditon this week. Perhaps your investments will pay off after all.
You're right in that it does bode well for the summer. But I have been lenient long enough. He has enough property that he could satisfy his debts if he chose to do so. It's time I was paid in full.
Oh, Aunt, he would probably rather go to debtor's prison as to part with the land that's been in his family for generations.
He can have it however he chooses, just so I get my money with interest. I do not have 30 years to get it back, and I do not want to hand you the account book in a mess when the time comes.
I hope you will give him the summer, Aunt. See what happens.
The music begins for the next dance, the boulanger. Sydney leads Eliza onto the floor. They're joined by Mr. Stringer and Charlotte, Reverend Hankins and Mrs. Griffiths, and Sir Robert with Alison. Sydney's clearly just going through the motions without enjoyment, until they cross partners and he must take Charlotte's hand. As soon as he meets her gaze, he cannot help but smile, and Charlotte cannot help but return it. Eliza is miffed, and at the end of the dance she gives Sydney a pained look.
I think I would like to leave now, Sydney.
As you wish.
Charlotte is still smiling as Mr. Stringer leaves her to find Alison for the next dance. As Charlotte sees a grim Sydney and a chilly Mrs. Campion slowly heading out of the door, her smile fades. Meanwhile, Sir Robert leads Alison back to her seat by the awaiting Lady Denham. He bows and takes his leave.
Well, Miss Alison, this looks promising. What do you think of Sir Robert?
He is all politeness.
And very handsome in a naval uniform. Oh, Alison. My arm! Oh!
Lady Denham clutches her left arm and suddenly leans onto Alison in a full swoon.
Mr. Parker!
Arthur and Tom come to Alison's aid, followed by Mr. Stringer and Dr. Fuchs.
Carry her to my rooms where she may be properly cared for. Jetzt, schnell!
The gentlemen attempt to pick up Lady Denham. Lord Babington takes hold of the back of Lady Denham's chair, tipping it backwards. Tom grasps the front legs of the chair.
On my count, 1, 2, 3.
Tom Parker is barely able to lift the front of the chair off the floor, so he puts it back down. Mr. Stringer steps up.
Let me try it, Mr. Parker. I've known to lift a few stone.
Tom steps aside. Babington and Stringer pick up Lady Denham in her chair. Tom and Arthur assist from the side, and they carry her out of the assembly rooms. As they reach the door of Prospect House, the orchestra starts up again, and the dance continues. Dr. Jonas dashes back to Trafalgar House for his doctor's bag. Dr. Fuchs leads the way to his rooms, while Alison and Esther follow the entourage. In Dr. Fuchs' quarters, Lady Denham is eased onto a bed. The change in positioning brings her back to consciousness, and she moans in pain.
Alison.
I'm here, Lady Denham.
Get Mr. Gates.
Ist Sie seeing the pearly gates?
Mr. Gates is her solicitor.
I know where he lives. I'll fetch him.
It would be best if she were allowed to rest. Clear the room, if you please. Out here. Out, out, everybody out.
Alison. Alison, stay.
Esther looks hurt and turns to go.
And you want Lady Babington, surely?
Yes. Esther?
Where is my stethoscope?
Here, use mine.
Danke. You have a stethoscope. Verwunderlich.
Esther and Alison hover nearby while Dr. Fuchs listens to Lady Denham's heart. Her eyes are closed. It's hard to tell if she's alive.
always had a strong constitution.
Indeed, Lady Denham, very strong.
Dr. Fuchs hands the stethoscope back to Dr. Jonas.
Tell me what you think, Doctor.
Dr. Jonas listens, then shakes his head. The solicitor arrives at the doorway. He's very old and leans on a cane. The doctors leave the bedside to confer with him at the door.
You are Mr. Gates?
Yes. How is Lady Denham?
Her heart is very weak. I could not say whether or not she will be with us for long.
Is she conscious?
Barely.
Can she speak?
A little.
Whatever you do it quickly. Schnell. Mach schnell.
Mr. Gates goes to her bedside.
You called for me, Lady Denham?
Yes. The arrangements I spoke of, and my will. Let Miss Allison be my witness.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Gates excuses everyone but Allison from the room and shuts the door behind them. Esther, Dr. Fuchs, and Dr. Jonas confer outside the door.
Shall we take her back to Sanditon House, Doctor?
She should not be moved at present. Absolute rest is imperative. I will take care of her myself. Would that I had a trained nurse for such a predicament as this.
Might I suggest that you ask Miss Diana Parker? She has a knack for close observation.
Nein. No. I am sure I would find the poor lady lathered in lard and leeches by morning.
If you give Miss Diana very specific directions, she will follow them to the letter.
Have you met this Fräulein?
Yes, I am well acquainted with her.
Then you will know what a fuss she makes about a sniffle, let alone anything serious.
Simply tell her to let the patient sleep and to check her pulse every hour. She will serve her well, as will her sister, I'm sure. In my opinion, they were born too high for their calling. They belong in a hospital.
Fine. Send them over. I cannot stay up all night. I am not a young man anymore.
Dr. Jonas leaves the room and whispers to Diana. She nods in agreement and hurries away to fetch her sister. This concludes episode 9 of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Join us for our season finale next week, when we shall see whether or not Lady Denham recovers and how she's directed her solicitor to act in regards to Tom Parker. Most importantly, we'd like to take this opportunity to assure you that we will leave none of you hanging on a cliff anywhere within the vicinity of Sanditon. From all of us at DIY Austen Drama, have a pleasant week.